Guys, Euphoria Season 3, Episode 2. Listen, they gave us a Jules appearance, Cassie doing a slutty baby pose, Maddie, strip club realness, and they even hit us with a hard R, y'all. I can't believe it. I'm gonna break it all down for you. Let's get into it. Euphoria is in full swing, honey, and the chaos is chaos. And last week's episode, which was the premiere of season 3, to me was a lot of shock value with the whole swallowing the balloon scene. And I mean, there were so many scenes that were kind of like, wow, y'all really going there this season. But I felt like this episode gave us a little bit more substance. I didn't get a chance to review the premiere, so I'm sure you guys are already caught up to date. But we know that Rue is now a drug mule for Lori. She owes Lori $11 million. Okay, it originally was $10,000, and over time, interest has compounded into something ridiculous. She is literally going between Mexico and the U.S. She's swallowing baggies of illegal contraband and poop shooting them out, and they did not censor that. And she's also trading one devil for another. On one of her runs to go deliver Lori's drugs to strip club king Alamo, she ends up striking a deal with him, and she wants to be his protege, and she wants to work with him in this whole strip club industry. She said it was her dream job, and I'm like, girl, Rue, we know you like girls, but girl, I need Rue to want more for herself. I don't know what Rue's vision is for her life. I don't even know if she has one. I don't think she knows what her life is going to look like from day to day to week to week. I don't think she has long-term goals at all. But just to kind of quickly recap the first episode, yeah, she keeps making decisions that are bad for her, and she continues to do that. I thought maybe the 4-year break, we would see some growth, but ain't much growth, not where Rue is concerned. Also in episode 1, we saw Cassie and Nate's relationship. They're living together. Nate has taken over his dad's business, not doing so well. Cassie is a stay-at-home wife, and she's bored, and she wants to keep up with the Joneses. And when I say Joneses, I mean Maddie. She's still competing with Maddie, even though she hasn't talked to her in 4 long years. She's still kind of peeping her Instagram and seeing what she's up to. Of course, Maddie is working with this agency, and she is managing some really big top influencers. So she's kind of in the limelight, but it looks a lot more glamorous than what it really is. But Cassie feels like she has to get out there and do something too, and show people that she's living this amazing, lavish life. So she wants to be an OnlyFans hoe. She wants to take all these pictures and content and videos in these scantily clad outfits, dressed like a puppy dog, doing crazy puppy dog. And she's about to get married. Her and Nate are engaged, and his future wife is like spreading her ass cheeks on the internet. He doesn't really want her to do it, but ultimately he decides, no face, no case, because I'm trying to get clients, I'm trying to get investors, I'm trying to get this business going back on the right tracks. If you're going to do it. Another big takeaway from the first episode is that while Rue was at Alamo's house and he was throwing this lavish party with all, I guess, his strippers and sex workers, of course, Rue went there to deliver drugs. One of the girls, her name was Trish, she OD'd and she died. So now Alamo is pissed, and he thinks Lori is trying to set him up, and he thinks Rue is in on it too. So he questions Rue. Rue swears out she has nothing to do with it, and she didn't. She didn't know at the time that it was spiked with fentanyl. And so she was like, I thought God brought us together, because there was this underlying theme in the premiere about religion and God, and Rue seeking God and telling her friend Allie that she wanted to read the Bible, and she's been thinking a lot about religion. So she told Alamo she thought that God somehow brought her, a drug smuggler, and a strip club king together, and it was like divine intervention. So he was like, okay, cool. Well, if that's the case, let's see how much God loves you. And then he puts an apple on top of her head and literally shoots it off with this, I guess it was a shotgun. So she didn't die, which she very well could have died. She took that as a sign, child, because Rue just be doing her thing. She just be, I don't know how she'd be processing stuff in her mind. But now, fast forward to episode 2, she is officially working for Alamo. And she's doing all the grunt work. She's cleaning up the bathrooms in the strip club. Can you imagine the bathrooms in the strip club? The girl, last episode, Trish, died from the overdose of fentanyl. So she's having to burn all of Trish's belongings, literally burn every trace there is of Trish at Alamo's house. You know, as she's working at the strip club, she gets a little promotion and she kind of starts owning her role. She's working in the back with the girls. She's herding the girls, making sure they're on time, making sure they're dressed. You know, she starts to kind of own her position. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe this is something that Rue is supposed to do with her life. She actually seems like she's pretty good at it. But one of the strippers, Angel, she just so happened to be best friends with Trish, the girl that died. And she has no idea what happened to Trish. She knows something's wrong because she can't get in touch with her. She's calling her and calling her and calling her. And obviously, Trisha's phone is dead and she's not answering because she is dead, but Angel doesn't know that yet. So she's confronting Alamo about it, and they all keep telling her, hey, she was at the party, but she left with some dude. And Angel is not buying that. So Angel and Rue have a little romantic fling. And so Rue is starting to feel guilty about the fact that Trish is dead. And then she knows that Angel is very distressed about not knowing what happened to her best friend. So every time Angel flies off the handle and she starts spiraling. She starts drinking a lot, taking drugs. She can barely dance. She can barely do her job. And so obviously Alamo notices this. So Rue suggests that she get help, that maybe she needs to go to rehab. So Alamo agrees. Yeah, I got a place. I got a place you can go to, a rehab spot. Rue's like, oh, you just have one on deck? He was like, yeah, you know, when you own a strip club, you got to have those kind of places on deck. And mind you, the place was sketchy as hell. Before that, Rue followed Angel into the bathroom while Angel's spiraling out, and Rue just tells her, Trish is dead. She OD'd off fentanyl. So I think that is going to bite Rue in the butt because she wasn't supposed to tell that. If you're working for someone as dirty as Alamo, he's the type of person that will allow you to die at his house and then bury you and get rid of the evidence. What do you think he'll do to you, Rue? I understood why she did, because she saw that Angel was really hurting and she wanted to put her mind at ease, but she has put herself in the line of fire. And I think that's going to backfire on Rue for sure. Rue ends up taking Angel to the rehab. I honestly do not think it's a rehab at all. I don't think we're going to see Angel again, because the lady at the front desk was completely nonchalant. She didn't want any paperwork, information, nothing. It was like no record of the girls coming in and out of there. Angel is asking too many questions about Trish, and it's making Alamo's situation too hot. So I don't know. I could be wrong, but I think Angel's gone. And if Alamo finds out Rue told anyone, he might try to take her out too. We got a Jules appearance in this episode. We didn't see her last episode. The people were worried. She is definitely a sugar baby through and through. She's staying at this lavish penthouse, laid the out, like apartment or condo, obviously funded by her boyfriend, which we find out he's married with kids. Jules didn't seem to mind, but I don't feel like that's going to end up very well for Jules, because you cannot put all your eggs in that basket, and you cannot let your boyfriend who is married bankroll your life. It's just not going to last. At any time, he could pull the plug and put Jules out on the street. So anyway, she's living this lifestyle. Rue catches up with her and visits her new lavish pad, and they kind of talk. Jules is different. To me, she was very cold to Rue. Very cold, and also kind of pretentious. She didn't say anything that was so pretentious, but she kind of gave the air of, girl, I'm living in this lavish penthouse. I do not have time for you. Can't just show up here after these many years. It just gave, I'm better than you now because I have a boyfriend who's bankrolling my life and you still have nothing. Now let's get into the whole Cassie, Nate, and Maddie of it all. So Maddie is doing her thing out there. She is a boss bitch. They show how she got her recent role. She just rolled up to the lady and was like, hey, like, I want to work for you. And the lady's, well, I'm not hiring. She was like, yeah, you are, because I could do this, I could do that. And then the lady's phone rings and Maddie picks up the phone and is like, hi, I'm such and such's assistant. How can I help you? She really comes in and dominates and it really honestly takes the role. The lady's name is Samantha. Okay, so she's essentially like her assistant. But on the side, Maddie picks up a little side hustle. She meets this girl who wants to be an influencer, and she essentially becomes that girl's career architect and turns her brand into like a big deal. This girl starts getting followers and these brand campaigns and stuff like that. But her boss, Samantha, caught wind of it and shut it down. So that kind of killed it for Maddie. Maddie, you could tell she's on top of her she's on top of her game. She's young. She knows what's going on in the socials. And she was trying to tell Samantha that girls like her are making money. Yeah, they're doing their OnlyFans, they're doing their little sensual, erotic content, but they are making bank, and that's where the money is. We need to pull in clients like that. But of course, Samantha's old school. She wasn't trying to hear it. So that kind of, that was kind of a drag for Maddie because she could see the dollar signs. But, sometimes a thing or something's coming or you're forecasting and people just can't see the vision. So that's kind of how I felt like Maddie felt. But after 4 years of not speaking to Cassie DMs her and is like, "Hi, I miss you. We should do lunch." So Maddie agrees. She meets her out by the pool and they chat. And, they're talking about life, catching up, things like that. But then after a few drinks, the real reason why Cassie DM'd Maddie was because she wants Maddie to help her with her online career. She tried to pass it off like, "Oh, no, that's not the only reason why I wanted you to come here." Lies, falsehoods, and fallacies. She wants to use Maddie because she knows Maddie can make her into a star. She wants to be this OnlyFans star. She wants to be this influencer. She wants to put her ass and titties online, even though Nate is not here for it. Maddie agrees and it's like, "Sure, I'll work with you. I will be your career architect." But Maddie's got something up her sleeve. I think this might be a great time for Maddie to enact her revenge against Cassie for going behind her back and sleeping with her ex, who she's now about to marry. And she made it very clear to Maddie that they are getting married. Ooh, and then she was throwing hella shade too. Cassie was like, "Yeah, well, what me and Nate have is real. We're getting married." She was kind of insinuating that whatever Maddie and Nate had wasn't real. Like she still was kind of rubbing in her face. And Maddie was like, "Okay, cool." She didn't respond, but I do think she's going to sabotage Cassie in some way. And you know what else I noticed too, which I thought was sad? Cassie don't have no identity. She just wants everybody else's identity, just like she wanted Maddie's identity. Because whenever they were talking about Cassie's current content, her dressing up like the dog and dropping it low and spreading it wide on Instagram, Maddie gave her honest feedback and was like, "You're too thirsty. Like it's too pressed. You're trying too hard. All you need to do is be you." And then Cassie's like, "Oh, well, I can be anything." And then Maddie's like, "Okay, but you just need to be you." And then Cassie says, "Well, who am I?" And Maddie says, "That's a good question." That girl don't know who she is. She just want to be famous. She just wants the clout. She cares about other people's opinions. She's very insecure. So she just wants to be what's hot and what's trending and what's sexy. And that's kind of sad. I don't understand how you can get married not knowing who you are. But speaking of that, she's supposed to get married to Nate. Nate is on the struggle bus with his business child. He owe investors $600,000 and he has to come up with like $100,000 like within a week. But while he's that deep in debt, he has an investor party looking for new investors. Like, are you trying to rob Peter to pay Paul? Like, what's the business plan here, Nate? He obviously cannot afford to have this lavish wedding that Cassie wants. Nate finds out that Cassie is posting all these pictures online. They had a conversation about it, no face, no case, but that's not what Cassie's doing. And so he confronts her at the party and was like, I need you to delete that account because it's making him look bad. He's a businessman. He's trying to find investors and his wife is busting it wide open for the gram. So he wants to shut it down. But mind you, Cassie and Maddie are supposed to work together to build her brand. So I don't know how that's going to work. But Cassie brought up the $50,000 worth of flowers for the wedding thing again. And Nate's like, if you delete your account, I guess maybe he was implying that he would do it, but that man ain't got no money. And I really think Cassie is very fearful of being broke and being ghetto. She said in the first episode, "I don't want my wedding to be ghetto," because she knows she comes from the ghetto. She comes from ghetto beginnings. So she keeps pressing him to keep up this image and this lavish lifestyle. And obviously he's trying to keep up a certain appearance as well. But I don't think it's going to work out between those two, to be quite honest with you. And speaking of Nate, in comes his dad. Now we know Kyle is played by the late Eric Dane. It was good to see him on screen, but it also was really heartbreaking because you could tell he was declining at that time. His slurred words, he had trouble speaking. You could tell by his body, his mannerisms when he was standing up. I wonder, did he make it through the entire season? I don't know. There was this one other thing that I thought was kind of hilarious, but also crazy. They hit us with a hard R. The white guy that was working for L'Oreal definitely called him the N-word with a hard R. I did not expect that, but that's not what pissed Alamo off. Lori then calls him a pig, and that's what pissed Alamo off. And there was this whole pig discourse that was happening at the strip club, which was crazy. Of course, Marshawn Lynch's character was in on it. It was crazy. He didn't mind being called the N-word with the hard R. It was the fact that she called him a pig, because he's like, pigs eat their own shit. And then he ended up enacting revenge against her and put like this huge big pig in their house, just over the top. But I guess that means that Lori and Alamo are still at each other's necks. And it was also nice to see Kadeem Hardison. He's amazing in this role, and I really liked him, and I hope we see more of him. I hope we see him every episode. I hear there's going to be a lot more appearances in this season of Euphoria, so I'm looking forward to it. My theories or predictions is Rue, as always, is going to get herself in some shit she can't get herself out of, since she continuously does that. She continues to make decisions, and where she is in life is just a product of those decisions, and I think she's going to keep doing it until something significant happens. Then she can't do that anymore. She's going to get in deep with Alamo, because she literally traded one devil for another. She says that in the beginning. She feels like she signed a deal with the devil, and she absolutely did. So it'll be interesting to see how that pans out. I do not think Cassie and Nate are going to make it. I do think Maddie is going to enact some sort of revenge, some sort of get back on Cassie for what she did. Oh, and the last thing, I forgot to mention this. Did y'all peep the American Eagle Sydney Sweeney shade? Whenever the little housekeeper was recording the content for her, and Cassie was all wet and draped in the American flag, and then the voiceover, which was Rue's voice, said something about embarrassing herself for attention. Oh, the shade of it all. Y'all remember that American Eagle campaign? Everybody was mad at Cindy about it, saying it was racist. I thought that was very interesting. Very, very interesting that they threw that in there. But I really enjoyed this episode. You guys let me know what your thoughts were and what your predictions are for the next episode. See you later.